This is Women with Books, a collection of conversations about your favorite books, media, and all of the fabulous things in life. Curated by me, author Lindsay Emory. I'm so glad you're a part of today's chat. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to bring you this episode with my interview with Mia Vincy. Have you heard about her? If you read one debut historical romance this summer, this is the one you should read. It's called A Wicked Kind of Husband. And I tell you how I discovered this book and how I fell in love with it. And you know what's really awesome for me as a reader and as a podcaster? It's when you fall in love with someone's books and they're just as gracious and as smart and witty when you talk to them as they are in their books. And that was the case with Mia Vincy. Speaking of your summer reading list, I am bringing back the second annual Women with Books Summer Reading Challenge. That will be going out soon on my social media and in a special podcast. And there's a sneak peek in my newsletter going out before June 1st. So hurry up and sign up for that if you don't want to be left out and you want to go ahead and plan your TBR list for the summer. This was one of my most popular series from last year. I did 2 different episodes, one at the beginning of summer where I kind of laid out what the challenge rules were going to be, and one at the end of the summer where I talked about what I read. But as always, I would love to hear what you are planning to read or what you are excited to read and what you're going to read at the end. So let's talk about our summer reading books. We're going to use hashtag WWB Reading Challenge. I just made that up. Let's do it. And let's post it and let's see what everyone's reading. And if you're in the Dallas area in October, I know it's not summer. We're going to skip ahead to fall now. If you're in the Dallas area or you plan to be in October 2019, or you just want to visit, hey, never been to Dallas before, this could be a good reason why. The tickets to the Richardson Adult Literacy Center Buns and Roses Tea go on sale May 30th. I will put all the information in the show notes and in my newsletter. I'm so very honored to be hosting a table this year. But I've attended as a reader for something like 4 or 5 years now because it's that good of an event. It is not only a fun reader event, you get to buy tickets at the table of an author that you love or maybe a new author, who knows? There's a speaker, there's raffles, there's a silent auction, there's book signing, and there's tea and delicious food. So it's just a fabulous event. And like I said, I'm very honored to be hosting a table this year so y'all can buy tickets to sit with me. And the funds raised support a very, very good cause. And like I said, I'll put all the link to that in the show notes if you're interested in finding out more or attending with me and all the other wonderful authors that will be there. So enjoy your summer that's starting and enjoy my interview with the delightful Mia Vincy. Welcome to Women with Books. I have an amazing guest from the other side of the world who's actually coming from the future, Mia Vincy. Welcome, Mia.
Hi, Lindsay. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. It's all very exciting.
It is very exciting. I'm a little flushed, honestly. It's just, I've got so much gushing to do in this episode. Are you going to be prepared for all?
Yeah, look, I'll just make a cup of coffee and I'll just sit here and you can gush.
Oh, that's lovely. I that sounds like a great job, actually. I could do that all day. But why don't you introduce who you are and what you write or what you do?
Okay, so my name is Mia Vincy. I write historical romances. I've had one published so far in October 2018, and I've got a few more on the way. If you can't understand what I'm saying, don't adjust your volume. That's just my Australian accent. You will get used to it, and I promise there are no major plot points in the first 5 minutes. Do you do that when you're watching stuff, TV from other countries with other Englishes and not quite understand what they're saying?
So actually, it's interesting. Yes. At the beginning of this year, Netflix in the United States, I'm not sure about other places around the world, but they seem to release a whole bunch of Australian reality shows.
Oh, I am sorry.
And my children and I decided to start watching them. So we were watching Instant Hotel, which was some kind of competition show about Airbnbs, and it was riveting television. And because it's the best, it's a competition show and it's a house show. And
is it like a renovation? I don't know. It is like a renovation show as well. Like you have to turn it into a hotel.
No, they already have it. They already are renting out their homes, and then they're competing against other people who are also, and they're judging each other. So there's very judgy Australians, and it's the best.
I'm hiding under the table here, by the way. You can't see me, but I am.
No. I mean, come on. I am from, yeah, we don't have anything to talk about here. And then the other one was Yummy Mummies.
Oh, dear God.
Have you heard of this one?
I have not. I learned to avoid Australian reality TV shows a long time ago.
So this one was about... I don't really know who they were. Maybe they're celebrities in Australia. That's the beauty of watching it from another show. You have no idea. And I'm Googling, like, how far is it from Adelaide to Melbourne? Because these people are acting like it's a long way away. But I don't know if that's like an inside joke or if it's really a long way away. So anyway, yeah, they're these pregnant wives and they're all really rich and they're trying to be better than each other. So my daughter and I have like an inside joke now about they kept saying something on the show like, well, I don't know how you do things in Adelaide. And that's my accent. So yes.
All right, I'm going to use that.
And again, I'm watching this and I have no idea if Adelaide is code for something, because if you're watching something here and they go, well, I don't know if that's how you do things in Boston, we would kind of get that, we would get maybe what they were implying, but I have no idea what Adelaide is like, why you would be snotty to someone who is from Adelaide. So the Australian accent I would watch, and we eventually got used to it. We could turn off the subtitles.
You were using subtitles?
Well, there's also these jokes go by your head and you're like, well, again, it's like just a little bit of a vocabulary difference to think, is that something bad that they just said? Was that a naughty word that they...
You'll be fluent in Australian in no time.
I know, but I don't have as hard time with Australian as I do with a lot of English accents. I think are worse. I don't know how y'all feel about that there.
I find Scottish can be quite difficult. So, like the beginning of Rob Roy, I'm like, I hope there's nothing important going on here because it's going to take me a few minutes to adjust to what they're saying.
My husband, I finally put the subtitles on for Peaky Blinders. And we got so much more out of it. But anyway, I love the accent. I now feel like I'm an expert because of all these wonderful shows that you have exported to my country.
Oh, we are so proud. We are so proud. You deserve it.
Yes,
it's our revenge.
Oh, goodness. And, but unfortunately, your book, A Wicked Kind of Husband, has no Australian accent in it that I could tell.
No, actually, it's a bit of a secret, but I do kind of write in polite Australian. So the swearing, like the bloody, that's actually how my parents used to swear. So,
okay.
I don't know how they swore back in the Regency, really, but that's how my parents swore. So you do polite Australian in an English accent. I come up with Regency Australian, Regency English. How about that?
That is very interesting. I never thought about how other parts would view Regency English. Well, tell us about your book, A Wicked Kind of Husband, before I get into it.
Okay, so it's set in England in the Regency, which is the 1810s, for those who aren't quite sure when it is. It is a marriage of convenience story, and at the time the story opens, our hero and heroine, Joshua and Cassandra DeWitt, have been married for 2 years, but in that time they haven't seen each other at all. They actually met on their wedding day. It was arranged by her father, and they married for legal reasons, and they agreed that they would never have anything to do with each other and would live their lives as if they are not at all married. So he lives in the city of Birmingham, where he's a businessman, and she lives in the countryside with her mother and 2 sisters. And they never communicate directly, but then she needs to go to London to help her sister make her debut, and he shows up there too. And gradually their lives kind of get entangled with each other as they take on each other's problems and start to get closer and closer. And we also sort of start to get a sense of what happened in their lives that led them to be married in the first place.
And it is brilliant, Mia, if I can use that word. It is so good. I want to tell you about how I found the book. A friend of mine, I guess she read it, and she said, "Have you read this book?" And I went, looked it up on Amazon, and I was like, oh, I've never heard of this author before, but oh my goodness, she has, at the time it was over 100 reviews. And I immediately got suspicious. And
an unheard of author with positive reviews, I know.
No, it wasn't that it was positive. It was so many and in such a short amount of time. And honestly, and so I read it, and I also became entranced with the book. It's so damn good. I'm just going to say this. And it's so beautiful and complex, and the emotions, and I could just go on and on. And I texted my friend back and I said, this is not a debut author. This is another author who's starting fresh with a whole new pen name. I know it. So I have to ask you officially, are you someone else famous and now starting as Mia Vincy?
I'm trying to think what name I could use. Yes, I'm secretly, choose one of the greatest novelists of all time. Yes. I'm secretly Jane Austen, reincarnated as a Australian 200 years later.
I would believe it.
Okay, that's a bit much. I'm not going to claim to be Austen. No, I am not anyone famous. I am exactly as unknown as I appear to be. It is definitely, I don't know how to answer that, but no, I'm not anyone famous. I wish I was.
No, I don't. I want you to take this in the best way possible, because I thought it's so good. And not that debut books can't be good. I mean, obviously they can, but I loved it so much. And you mentioned, not only the romance is really believable, and affecting, and at the end I cried like a kid, and I've only done that. You know what? I've only done that twice recently, and they were both by Australian authors. So I don't know what y'all are doing to me out there, but
we're just really mean.
So mean. It'll just rip my heart out.
I don't know how you do things in Texas, but in Australia, we're really mean.
No, we're really friendly here. We do everything with a smile and bless your heart. The family. You mentioned something about that they both are discovering things about their family and putting the pieces of their lives together, kind of. And I love that also about the book, is that you were really, how do I put it? There were people in each of their pasts that are not nice to them, and they're in their families, and they are not the, wonderful dad and the supportive grandma and stuff, but you take them on the journey too. And some of them grow and change with the couple, and it was an arc for everyone almost. So I really enjoyed that, and that you can have family, and you can have a difficult family, and you can love them, and you can be supportive, but they might not ever live up to your expectations. And so that was a kind of a neat twist that I was a good part of the happy ever after. I thought that these two people made their own family, and despite not having perfect families themselves.
Thank you. It's just so humbling to hear people say positive things. I mean, I don't know how you feel when people praise your book. It's really, I never know how to take it. Just to say, yeah.
I always kind of feel like, no, I'd say thank you, of course. I also kind of feel like have you read it? Did you really?
Well, that's the other thing, because you're actually, you're the one who made the sausage. You kind of know.
I know.
But what about that bit where that bit there's really bad, like, and you can't say it. But it's amazing. I think one of the most enlightening things that has happened since I published the book was understanding how everyone reads a book differently. I mean, I kind of knew that intellectually beforehand, but then you see so many different responses to a single piece of work, and you're like, wow, everyone is reading a different book. It's true.
Yeah, and everyone takes their favorite bits out of it as well. You're absolutely right. And the humor in this, the humor was just crackling. I took a picture of one of the things that made me laugh out loud, and I put that on Instagram, and it wasn't even a tenth of what made me laugh. The bits between the hero and his staff were very telling and sharp and sharply written. So enjoyable. But anyway, I've been gushing about this book. We've been recommending it. I've been recommending it to other authors, and then the news came out a few weeks ago that you were nominated for 2 Rita Awards from the Romance Writers of America. Congratulations.
Thank you, I guess.
Why? No, it's a huge honor.
It is. It's just obviously it's a little bit fraught this year, as it's, the meaning of the Rita has changed a little bit over the years, as I think we've become aware of it. So
yes. To be nominated for Best Debut, I mean, is always an honor no matter what, because that's you only get one shot at that. So
well, that was kind of what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking when I was entering. I was like, I wasn't going to enter, and I was like, well, it's only the only time I ever get my debut. And I think, for me personally, you mentioned whether or not it was my debut. It's been 20 years since I first submitted a manuscript to a publisher, and I was at university then, and I was like so sure that they're going to love it because it's just the best thing ever. And, I typed it up and I put it in an envelope and I sent it off to the Mills and Boon office in London. And, 3 months later, they sent it back. And, it's for 20 years that, life has happened, because life tends to do that. And, writing in bits on the side and working. And then to actually finally, oh my God, I'm going to cry. Actually, finally, to get a book out there, to go, I've actually achieved something that I've been trying to achieve for 20 years. That feels pretty special. Yeah.
It should. It definitely should. So tell us about the call. How did they get a hold of you?
It was actually a surprise. So they called, it was late at night, the night before everyone else would have got it, like because of the time difference. So right. I wasn't expecting it. I didn't even know they had my phone number. I probably gave it to them and completely forgot. So, I'm getting this call at, I don't even know what time it was, 10 o'clock at night. And, it was Damon Suede, who is... the last time I got a phone call with a man with an American accent, it was a recorded message telling me that there was a warrant out for my arrest. There's like these series of scam calls going through in Australia, and it's something to do with some fraud investigation with the tax office. And you're like, well, why is the Australian tax office using an American? So I'm kind of like, hang on, why is an American man calling me? Is there another warrant out for my arrest? And I think I did get a little bit emotional, so I think I kind of attacked him. I think I accused poor Damon Suede of deliberately trying to make me cry.
Oh.
Because I think he said something like, it gives me great joy to tell you. I'm like, does it give you joy to make me cry? So if Damon is listening, I'm sorry for that. It's very difficult to think when you kind of like, you're not expecting, I wasn't expecting the call at all. So, and then
Did
I wasn't
you tell him about the history that you'd been accused of evading taxation or something before?
No, I was actually struggling to stay coherent. So
oh my goodness.
It was all
he needs to hear that part of the story, I think.
so now he knows why I was like, why is an American man calling me? So yeah, so that was all very, and of course it was late in the night, and he's like, but anyway, you just go to sleep now. And I'm like, you think I'm going to sleep? So anyway, I did actually go to sleep, and then woke up very late the next morning and saw that all the other people had been announced, and so it was all very strange.
Yeah, I bet. I love the stories about the calls though, because it always is somebody, saying, in a business meeting or something. It's always the most inopportune time. that they call people here, and of course 10 o'clock at night is very inopportune for you, but
I imagine it must have been pretty inopportune for him because he had to get up early in the morning. But I learned something about myself, which is that apparently I am not cool when I get a call telling me I've been nominated for an award. You think you're going to be cool, you're not.
You're right. I mean, it's never happened to me, but I usually am a down player in my normal life. Even when I get publishing contracts or whatnot, I'm happy, I'm pleased, I do a little celebration, but I just kind of, oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. And so it's really hard for me to imagine a scenario where I would just lose it, but I'm sure it's out there one day.
I hope it is. I hope you get that call and you're not nearly as cool as you think you are.
I hope so. So you said you've been writing for 20 years? So what finally made you decide to stick your toe back into fiction?
Well, I suppose I had been writing bits and pieces along the side, those little gaps that you find. I did a lot of freelance writing, freelance journalism, freelance copy editing and sort of general communications writing, and ended up in a full-time position, a management position that nearly killed me. And I was just so miserable, and I was, my life imploded, and I was 40 years old, and I was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's now or never. So I looked at the numbers. I thought I can take a year. I can give myself a year off, in which case, during which I will work on this. I will really commit to it. And at the end of a year, I am sure I will have a manuscript that I can then sell. So 2 years later, I have finally had a manuscript, and I thought, I think this might just be publishable. So that was it. It was sort of a now or never kind of moment.
And was that A Wicked Kind of Husband?
That was A Wicked Kind of Husband. Okay. I mean, I think over those 2 years I wrote and discarded maybe half a dozen manuscripts. I haven't recounted because it might upset me, but that was the one that I thought, I've actually got one that will work, I think.
Those ones that you put away, it's tricky, isn't it? Because you don't know whether you're putting them away because you just don't believe in yourself, or oh, it's probably something good and I'm just being too hard on myself, or if no, it's really trash.
I find that I really have to go on instinct, and would I read this book if it was published? And I'm a very, very picky reader, so I was like, well, actually no, I wouldn't. And I found there were some which I'd been working on for months and it just couldn't get it to work. And then I sort of made that executive decision of, I think I have to cut this. I think I have to throw this out. And the instinct goes, yeah, throw this one out. But like there's another one I'm working on, I'm going, I think I need to throw this out. And the gut's like, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Keep going. So I just have to go with the gut feel that, this will or won't work. But I think, at the time it's really upsetting because you've got, I put so much expectations into a manuscript, like this is going to be the one, and then you finish it and you go, no, it's broken at the concept level. That was really the ones I had to throw away. The whole concept or the premise was flawed and the characters were boring and it just was unsalvageable. But I think with each one, I learned a whole lot more. And so, all you can do is keep on learning. And I look ahead at other writers who have published lots of books, like you've published, 5 or something?
Something like that.
Right. So experienced novelists. And I hear people saying, it doesn't get any easier. You never really learn how to write a book. And I'm like, yay, so much to look forward to.
I hear people saying that each book is different. And people who are way more experienced than me, 20, 30 books, it's just like every time the process is different. And that does not give me any comfort.
No, you think... I'm trying to reconcile myself with that because, I write very character-driven novels. So, of course, each novel's got different characters. And so, of course, it's going to be very different. You're going to have different dynamics. You're going to have different, ways of speaking. You're going to have different behaviour. And so, of course, the way they behave is going to be different. So the plot's going to be different. So, I guess there's nothing we can do about it as long as we write different characters each time.
Right. Do you do research for your books?
No, I make it all up. Yes, I do research.
I don't know.
I do research. I do a lot of research. I love the research. The research is great. That's where the ideas come from. The more you know, the more ideas you can have. And yeah.
I am a big historical romance reader. I love the genre, but I haven't done any research. So if you guys tell me that there were purple elephants in Hyde Park, I would go, wow, that's so fascinating. I just didn't know that. I trust you people.
Well, apparently there were kangaroos hanging out outside the Tower of London.
See, I don't know whether to believe you now or not.
I was quite surprised when I learnt that. But yes, I've read that in a book, so it must be true. In a non-fiction book. Right. Okay, my approach to I think the point I need to remember always is that I'm writing romance first, and the historical setting comes later. I'm not writing historical fiction, and I'm not writing history, and the romance is the most important part. And for me, a romance is an emotional experience. So anything that doesn't lend to that, I'll throw it out. I write very long, and I then take out a lot of the facts that I put in there. Sort of the facts are in there to prove that I've done my research, and I go, oh, it's boring, I'll take it all out again. So, I do as much research as I feel I need to do for the story to come together. I don't then go and check if those facts are correct because, that's what historians are for. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, if I'm researching and I don't like the facts, then I'll keep researching until I find alternative facts that I like better, because that's the thing about history. There's no one right fact.
One of the things I enjoyed about your book was that the hero you already mentioned he lives in Birmingham, and not Birmingham, Alabama, Birmingham, England. And he's an entrepreneur? I mean, what would you call him? He's in trade or...
I'd call him an industrialist. This is a time in Birmingham. Yeah. I mean, if you've read Peaky Blinders, if you watch Peaky Blinders, Birmingham was the, industrial centre. That was where a lot of the metal factories were made. A lot of the guns were made for the war, and all the buttons and pretty much anything made out of metal was made in Birmingham at that time.
And his staff, he has some gentlemen who work for him who I believe were of other cultures other than Anglo-Saxon, and that to me just felt so refreshing. And also, well, of course there were. This was a big industrial town. They had merchants, they had ports, there were people coming and going from all over the world. They had kangaroos, for goodness sake. Of course they had people from India and Africa and all these things. So I just wanted to thank you for putting those little facts in there so that we will remember that England was quite cosmopolitan, especially the cities. I don't know about the countryside, but the cities definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, this is one of the things that I was just saying about history. There's never sort of one right answer with history, because history is written by historians, and historians are people, and people ask questions about people like themselves. So as the academic world has opened up to new views of history, post-colonial history and feminist history, and then history from people, written by people from different races and cultures, we're getting a whole different insight into the way life was. And, the facts are there. And if we're building a world, well, let's include everything that the world was. I mean, for example, so the secretary, Mr. Das, who is Bengali, he fits into the story because Joshua has a brother in India, and Mr. Das had to leave India for his own personal reasons, and so he got a job, and so that's how he happened to wind up there. But it's easy enough to find other Indian entrepreneurs who were in England at the time. There was one guy who opened the first Indian restaurant in London in 1810. So. And then he went on to have a really successful Indian massage and, steam baths place in London, I think in Brighton. I could be wrong there. So, it's not like we're making this up. This is the way the world was. And, it's part of the fun of building the immersive world for the historical romance, to put all the different possibilities that are there.
Right. Because why would you limit yourself? You can tell such a better story if you use all those paints in the paint box, correct? Well,
it's just makes life is more interesting, the different ways that you look at it,
and it adds everything to it. So yes, I enjoyed all that. Do you mainly read historical romance, or do you have other genres that you are a fan of?
I've been reading a lot more fantasy lately. It's been eye-opening and really exciting. I think when I was young and in my formative book reading years, I think when I picked up fantasy then, it was all very, maybe it was just the ones I was picking up, but it was all very blokey and kind of slow, and everyone was really serious, and they all had strange names, and they stood around having very important conversations about very important things. And I was like, fantasy, not for me. And I think it was, well, meantime, I wasn't paying attention. I got a Kindle, and that just opened up this whole world of books that I'd never had access to before because, I grew up in rural Australia, and look, Australia's great, but you don't go to Australia for the bookshops. And if you want a cricketer biography, sports people biographies and cookbooks, there's lots of books like that. This is just in the bookshop in the town when I was growing up. But that was kind of it. And then I was living overseas for a long time, and access to English language books was really limited. So then when I get the Kindle opened up, and that's when I just discovered romance and went completely nuts. And then recently I discovered that while I was paying attention and reading everything in the romance world as published over the past 20 years, there was this huge burgeoning in fantasy. And, a lot of female-driven, a lot of female, written by women, all this global stuff, all these different ideas from all around the world. And it's just like, wow. So I'm really sort of discovering this whole new genre, which has been there for ages. And I use discover, obviously, there in the colonial sense. And it's just wonderful. So I'm trying to finding my way through that. I'm feeling like a bit of an idiot for not discovering it sooner, but I'm having a lot of fun at the moment. Hits and misses, unfortunately, as it always is, because you have to navigate the way through the fraught world of recommendations, but I'm enjoying a lot.
Well, I would love to hear some of those recommendations at some point. You can do them now or anytime, because fantasy is one of those things where I would really like to explore more, and I have picked the brains of guests and things about it, but it's still, to my mind, I think I have a similar experience to you, that I had picked up way too many books about boys and their dragons when I was younger, and that I'm very careful about what I pick up now. So.
I think so too, yeah. And because a lot of fantasy traditionally was also faux medieval Europe. So here I am researching historical romances, and especially, women's situations, and, the difficulty women have, being trapped and having to not being able to earn their own living, and so having to get married, and all the situations that come around with, being seen as a body and a possession of a man that were very real 200 years ago, and then picking up a fantasy and seeing women with exactly the same problems, and you're like, that's not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for something very different. I'm looking for you to surprise me, show me something new. So, look, some of the ones that I've loved are some of the bigger names. So I don't know if they need a recommendation from me, but like N.K. Jemisin was where I started with the 5th season. Have you read it?
No.
Yeah.
I've heard her recommended a lot, though.
So, absolutely. I mean, like that trilogy, I think she won the Hugo 3 years in a row. Just, like for me, okay, so for me, a good book, it either sets my brain like a light, like I can feel like all the different parts of my brain light up, or else it just really stirs up my emotions, or it does both. And her, I saw a picture of the Aurora Borealis, and I was like, that's what it looks like inside my brain when I'm reading one of her novels. It's just this whole different way of looking at the world and experiencing the world, and a whole different way of telling stories as well that I just loved. So the Broken Earth trilogy, I wouldn't say it's an easy read. It's not a light and easy read, like sit back and have a chuckle, but it's really compelling and fascinating. And her narrative strategy from a writer point of view is just brilliant. And then I went back and read her Inheritance trilogy, which is also brilliant. I also enjoyed, recently I picked up at the library Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, which was also very enjoyable. And from a narrative point of view, from a writer point of view, really admiring the way that she tells it all in first person without saying who's talking, but I always know, within a sentence, who's talking. So that was brilliant.
I haven't read that one yet. I read her first one. I think.
Uprooted, is that?
Uprooted, yes.
Yeah.
I think I like Tangled, but that wasn't right.
Close enough. Maybe we should do a Rapunzel one soon.
There was some Rapunzel-esque things in Uprooted. Did you read it?
Oh yeah, I've read it. Oh yeah, okay. That's
just the tower and the being taken away or something. I got a very but I did. That was really remarkably done. It was one of those ones that I just kept turning the page, going, I'm not really sure what is about to happen, which is unusual when you read romance a whole lot. You really get to know those beats, right? You get to know what should be happening on each page. And then when you switch over to something like that, you're like, I'm not sure how long they're going to be in this forest. They could be here for a very long time.
It does get a little bit surprising, because another one I really enjoyed was Laini Taylor's duology, Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares. And there is a cliffhanger at the end of Strange the Dreamer that was an absolute shock. I did not see it coming. And as a romance reader, you're going, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. So, but otherwise the world building in that was just beautiful. And I think I also began to appreciate that these, books like Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares, where it's a whole world that's completely, if it's mythology that's she's drawn from somewhere else, it's not something I recognize. And it's also just nice, it's like the world's different and the women aren't living under the threat of sexual assault the whole time. It's just kind of nice to read a book about like that's still compelling.
So refreshing.
It is. Have you ever read a book that you just absolutely loved and you're like, wow, everyone in the world has to read this book?
Yes.
And then it turns out that this book was written like years ago and it won all these awards and was a bestseller. And in fact, everyone else in the world has read the book and it's only you that hasn't.
I'm sure that could happen to me if it hasn't. Yes.
And like, why didn't anyone in my life sort of grab me and say, you need to read this book? Or maybe they did and I missed it. So this is one of the books that really got me into fantasy. It was Lois McMaster Bujold, who I think everyone's heard of. Have you heard of?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so it's the Curse of Chalion and then the Pleiaden of Souls, and those two books, I just love them, especially the second one. And in that one, the heroine is 40 and she's going off to try and start her life again and live her life a little bit differently. So maybe it just resonated with me in my own life stage. But they're not quick, light reads. They're very sort of intense and dense, but very close third-person point of view from the characters, set in I think a kind of a version of oldie worldy Spain. I'm not completely sure. And the first one is the hero used to be someone, but he was sold into slavery, and he's just come out and he's a broken man, and he just wants a job sitting by the fire peeling potatoes or something, but instead he gets a job as a tutor to the future queen and her, I don't know the relationship, she's a friend or a cousin or something, and he gets brought back into the whole politics of the world, and he ends up saving them from this curse. And then the second one, Pleiaden of Souls, this queen who was under the curse, she now is trying to live her life again. And everyone's like, because she was insane for a while, everyone's like really coddling her and she's trying to get away. So she hates the gods, but she decides she's going to go on a pilgrimage just as a way to get away. And stuff happens. And it's just absolutely beautiful. I think at least one of them won a Hugo Award. That's what I mean. They've been around, they're classics, everyone's heard of them. I'd never heard of them. I just love them. So if you are looking for a way into fantasy and you like something really intense and emotional, I highly recommend them.
I can see that happening though when someone goes into a new genre, because you're a babe, right? You'd have no knowledge of what that world is like. I think someone coming into romance too would be the same way. Oh, who's this Nora Roberts everyone's talking about?
I know, really. We're just like, oh, Nora? Have you not heard of Nora? I know, exactly. So
I can read all these books. And like, yes, thank you. We've been there. Do you think that fantasy, do you feel it impacting your work in historical romance, or does it inspire you in some way?
I think in the sense that from a purely craft point of view, it's helping me be aware of the world building, because like you said, I think when we become really familiar with a genre, especially now the more research I do, I forget how much I didn't know when I started. Like when I started, the order of the ranking of the aristocrats, I didn't really know what order they came in. And all these kinds of little things that I didn't know that I've had to learn, I probably forgot how much I had to learn along the way. And so I'm probably more aware now from reading fantasy and having to learn more about a world, about the world building, and you have to make clear the technology, you have to make clear the social structures, you have to make clear, the different ranking and how people fit in together for the story to make sense, but also you're trying to do it without boring people. So I think I've become a lot more aware of those kind of details and how I need to put them in.
That's interesting. Would you ever write a fantasy romance? Blend them all together?
I would think about it. You have to make the world from scratch, at least.
Yeah.
With historical romance, it's already there. I mean, I'm not going to fool myself that the Regency or the oldie worldy England that we put into our historical romances is a true representation of what life was like then. I think it's it's our shared fantasy of it, but it's still kind of already there, and you can build on it. And the more research you do, you can look at different angles and take it from different perspectives and all the rest of it. But I have to start from scratch. On the other hand, starting from scratch, you can do whatever you like, and that would be really liberating in that way. Because I think you use the setting to tell the theme of the story, so you could then.
I will say, I made up
a
whole new country with my last book, and it was really fun. It was just like, you're writing and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do here. I'm like, I can make it up.
But did you have to do a lot of research to do that, to get a sense of how other countries, to get all the things we take for granted, or just,
I did a little bit, but mostly it was just, if you are, for me, I've just been absorbing geography and political science and history and things for so long that I think I was just like, oh, I'll take a little bit of this, I'll take a little bit of Dutch, I'll take a little bit of German, I'll take a little bit of French, and just kind of smush it all together. And my other key, which I told my friend about, was that if in doubt, I would refer to the Holy Roman Empire, because no one really knows what the Holy Roman Empire is anymore.
But it sounds like you do know.
Oh, I know so much about the Holy Roman Empire. All my readers out there, believe me. But then I would just say, oh yeah, it's the Holy Roman Empire. And then people nod.
I love that. Making your own country, you can never be wrong.
Oh yeah.
You can never be wrong. I mean, at least, when we're writing in like the Regency world, because there's so many different facts, you can actually be wrong, but you can never, ever be wrong. That's brilliant.
Just throwing that out there, Mia.
I'm going to have to think about that. You can't tell me what's right or wrong, because I made it up and I make the rules. And they say, yeah, but it was different in your last book. You go, yeah, well, it changed.
It changed. Revolution happened.
Keep up.
Okay, I have to ask you, you might not like this question though. When is your next book coming out?
I don't like that question. No.
I'm sorry.
No, I think, all those, when I talk about 20 years, I think I only ever imagine, like, you just got to write a book and get it out there. And then you write a book and get it out there, and it's like getting
people
through
like me expect a second book. It's
like getting through Monday at work. I never had a problem with Mondays, but like you wake up on Tuesday morning, you're like, what? You expect me to do that again? So this is my Tuesday book, which is fitting because I've never liked Tuesdays. I think I miscalculated. At the time I published A Wicked Kind of Husband, I had 2 drafts of other books. I thought it won't take me long, a couple of months, I'll just edit them, they'll be fine. Reader, they're not fine. So I'm still working on them. I think they're a lot more complex, a lot more difficult than I appreciated. And I'm hoping in the next few months I should have 1 or 2 more out.
Well, I hope the Rita Awards aren't a curse, like you feel like you can't get them out or something because of...
It does put a little bit of pressure on, I have to admit.
I mean, I was just saying, because in my mind I would see it that way, like, oh, now you want me to have a best second book.
I know. And then I go, what? They've talked about the second book slump, so if it's really bad, everyone, you'll understand. You can all just nod wisely and say, yes, second books, they're hard.
I think, well, can you at least tell us if there will be some of the characters that were, I mean, it seems like it. The first book kind of seems to set that up, but maybe you've thrown those away already.
Well, this is also a very difficult, awkward moment for me.
I'm sorry.
So technically, Wicked Kind of Husband is the 3rd in the series.
Yes.
But at the time, all my other manuscripts didn't work, and I was just so frustrated. And I thought, I'm nobody. I'm going to publish this. There's 1 million books on Amazon. No one's going to notice. The book's going to sink without a trace. I can just practice publishing. I can go, yay, I'm a published novelist, and I'll boost my confidence, and I'll move on with my life. And I'll get the other books out quickly, and no one will ever know. I kind of miscalculated. So people did find the novel, obviously, and the book...
Because you're Nora Roberts.
Because I'm secretly Nora Roberts. Nora Roberts decided to write historical romance. She spent a lot of time practicing an Australian accent. She's
been Australian this whole time. She was just practicing an American accent.
My God, busted, yes. So I forgot what so anyway, that was the why I put the third book out first, and now I'm sort of scrambling to get my other books out. So if you've read the third book, there's the best friend, Cassandra's best friend is called Arabella, and she's Lady Hartbury. So she's actually secretly my favourite character.
She's a wonderful character. She might be secretly my favorite character too.
Oh, okay, God, now I've got pressure on her book too. So the first book, the one that's giving me a lot of trouble, is my second book, if that makes sense. It's called The Beastly Kind of Earl, and as you might guess from the title, it's Beauty and the Beast, plays with the Beauty and the Beast trope. So Arabella is the best friend in that book too, and but at that stage she's not married. So then the second book, called A Dangerous Kind of Lady, is Arabella's book, and at the end of which she ends up married, spoiler alert. and in her book, her best friends are Cassandra and another character called Juno. And so then it's actually really complicated. I've got this whole, it's all very sprawling. There are a lot of different characters. And so then the characters in A Wicked Kind of Husband, the secondary characters like the sisters, Lucy especially, she will have a book later. A lot of people are interested in Lucy because I think she's a
mess.
She's a mess, and there's a lot of strong feelings directed toward her that I hadn't quite anticipated. There is a reason she's a mess. There is a reason in her mind why she behaves the way she does, and the clue is buried in A Wicked Kind of Husband. It's probably buried quite deeply. Okay. And so she will get her story later.
I think I would have stronger negative feelings about her if you didn't handle all the other messy personalities as well. You know, the grandmother, the father, there's a lot of other people that were kind of messy, and you handled them all with such grace and sensitivity that I thought, okay, Lucy also is going to be handled well. There's a reason why she does what she does.
That's nice to know. But, we're all, I don't know about all the people in your life, but pretty much everyone I know, we're all a mess. And we all have a reason for being a mess. And it's more what we do to try to manage that, I guess, and navigate the world. And so I do have a lot of sympathy for, I think, all my characters, even the ones I don't like. I do have a straightforward couple of villains coming up, and I don't care what happens to them. They get what they deserve. So.
Yay. Well, I could obviously talk to you about your books forever, but I think it's time for our lightning round. Are you ready for this?
I am so ready.
Okay. Excuse me. I have to prepare myself. All right. Do you prefer dark or milk chocolate?
Milk.
Do you prefer coffee or tea?
Coffee.
When your phone rings, do you answer it?
What is this thing you call a phone?
Only when strange American men are calling, darling.
Only when strange American men, yeah. Yeah, don't answer the phone. Some strange American man's going to call you.
We feel the same way here. How do you usually waste time on the internet?
There is no such thing as wasted time on the internet.
Beautiful.
Serendipity is my muse.
I love it. On your next vacation, will it be to the mountains or the beach?
The mountains.
Do you call it soda or pop in Australia, or something else entirely?
Soft drink.
Soft drink. Interesting.
I wasn't even aware for most of my life that those are the same thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I wasn't even aware they were the same thing. So.
And there's more words than that in America, but those are probably the two most common, but there are more.
No, we just call it soft drink.
Okay.
I spend a lot of my life confused reading English and American books and not really knowing what a lot of things are. You just kind of
interesting. You need an American to Australian dictionary. Do they have those?
I don't know if they do actually. But
this would be a gag gift, but I'm serious.
Well, it's like things. I'm never quite sure of the difference between a condo and an apartment.
Oh, one is rented and one is owned. Generally.
Okay. There we go.
A condo, generally, that's a rough way I would think of. A condo you would own, an apartment you're leasing.
But physically they're the same thing.
They can be, yeah. Sometimes a condo might have more amenities because you're owning it. Like it might have a garage or something.
Guess what? I've now got an American-Australian dictionary. It's called Lindsay Emory.
Yes.
And every time I have a question about American culture, I'll just call you up and say, what's this thing about no white after Labor Day? Like, what is that about?
It's off. Yeah, don't break that rule, Mia. Yeah, well, actually, one of my good friends here, our daughters are friends too. They were living in Australia when their daughter was born. So when I was watching all these Australian TV shows, I was going, so tell me, what's this? I asked them a few questions too. They told me some horrific stories about living there, your wildlife and your roads, or death traps.
What's wrong with our roads? Our roads are lovely.
They were
apart from all the wildlife.
Yeah, they were telling me about in the middle of the night, like there's just things, animals, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, those kangaroos, they're very dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous. All right, we're getting off track.
Sorry.
It's okay. On a romance novel cover, do you prefer abs, forearms, or a chiseled jaw?
Forearms.
And very important, last question. What are your feelings about turning to the last page of a book first?
Look, everyone can do what they want. I would say it depends on why you're turning to the last page. So it would never occur to me to read the last bit because I just don't understand the point of that. However, if I'm reading a print book now, you will likely see me turn to the last page to find out how many pages there are so I can calculate the percentage.
Isn't that funny?
Because these print books, they don't calculate the percentage for you, right?
Right. Oh, I have the same...
They don't tell you the time. I don't know what's the point of them, really. And you can't just turn them into a different book by pressing a button.
I am the same way.
Do you calculate the percentage now?
I do. I had a library book recently, and I thought, okay, this is getting a little slow, but let me see where I'm at. And so I went to the last. I was like, okay, this is 300 pages. I'm at page 75, so I'm going to give it to page 100.
I'll be 33% of the way through then.
Yeah, something exciting should happen about then, and then I can go to bed. And yeah, and you're so right. I'm so addicted to that Kindle now, going, okay, oh, I'm 58% through. Okay, well, that's, yeah.
It does. I think it's just really changed our experience of reading, different way of understanding the book. So.
And I'm okay with it, just because I can get a book in seconds flat.
Yeah. And also, print books are really heavy.
Yeah, they don't fit in your pocket either.
I know. I was reading Spinning Silver. That's really big. I was lying in bed reading Spinning Silver, and my arms are getting tired. I'm like, wow, my reading muscles have atrophied.
Weak. You need some reading aerobics.
I know. I need to get like all these copies of big fantasy novels and start doing bicep curls. So I can...
Just think, isn't that lovely? I mean, how many big, thick fantasy novels can you get in one small device?
Oh, I know. It's amazing.
It's brilliant.
You know.
Where can people find you, Mia, if they want to learn more and follow your publishing antics?
My antics. I have a website called miavincy.com where I will usually put information up. Whether it's actually happening, how out of date that information is, I can't promise you. I am on most social media sites. I'm not very active on social media, but if you want to get in touch with me, you can. I do check my notifications even if I'm not actually actively going onto the site. So that's Mia Vincy on Twitter and Mia Vincy Books maybe on Facebook and Mia Vincy Writes on Instagram maybe. So
she is in tomorrow, you guys, so be patient with her if you are in America and you contact her.
Oh yeah, that's another point. I'm in a different time zone. I tend not to look at any of my social media or emails or anything until the end of my working day. So it could be a while.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on Women with Books. I'm so glad we were able to make this happen. And I do really, really love your book. And congratulations are definitely in order. And I know I can't wait till the next one.
Well, thank you so much. And it's wonderful to hear those things said.
Thank you for joining me today. If you love this conversation, please leave a review or consider supporting the podcast at the link in the show notes. For a list of books discussed in this episode and other fabulous content, sign up for my newsletter at womenwithbooks.com. And remember, keep reading.